Them. Absolutely love them as an actor. Sad. We'll come back to that and a lot more. Welcome to Wednesday, Jack Heath, the illustrious one, J Doc on the boards. We're looking at a not a bad looking second day of April. We're a little bit of rain moving in. Maybe not a great weekend, but you know what? Hey, look at the bright side, I guess. And we're looking at a busy show this morning. And we are, of course, broadcasting across New Hampshire, heavy in the Lakes region, Manchester, Concord, South, and of course the Seacoast, right up into Portland, Maine, WTSN, AM and FM. Good morning, New Hampshire. Good morning up into Maine. Good morning, New England. Good morning, worldwide. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. And I have to tell you, thousands of you are each morning listening, streaming online on the smartphone or smart device. And why not in terms of being smart and in addition to our AM and FM News Talk radio network. So good stuff happening. And we'll tell you what our poll question is in just a moment up on X. J-Dog on the board. It's going to have some fun today, but we're going to get into some heavy duty stuff, the reciprocal tariffs, more questions and answers in terms of the details coming out of the Trump administration, what countries will be targeted, what levels, what goods. So there frankly are more questions and answers on this as the ongoing tariff strategy of President Trump to get more made and earned in this country, as he says. We'll come back to that. We're also going to hear more on the special elections in Florida and Wisconsin. That Wisconsin Supreme Court race, not surprised at all. Go get him, Wisconsin. Liberal court, but that's Wisconsin. But in Florida, the House seat goes to Republicans. We'll have more on this. Brad Card will be coming up in a little bit. One of our great contributors and analyst and all-stars, co-host of Contact Politics as well. And that we have a new edition up for you. By the way, our Pulse Podcast Network is up and vibrant and running. We have a bunch of choices for you locally that we have originated here. I mentioned Contact Politics, Bet This with J-Doc and CJ, and some other great podcasts right there. So each week we have more podcasts if you want to listen 24/7. We'll have more on that. And also top of the 10 o'clock hour, very interesting interview. You have a special agent, special FBI agent out of Boston. Special FBI agent is going to talk with us about homeowners, big wake-up call. If you own property, if you own a home, especially if you own a second home, the FBI live this morning on Good Morning New Hampshire, the Pulse of an H out of the Boston office, warning New England homeowners. There's a talk about scams and those con artists and those basically thieves out there. If you have a home that you're not in much, you've heard about people squatting. You've heard about that, right? All the squatting stuff that we heard about the last couple of years till some states crack down on that, especially Florida. But if you own a second home and you have no mortgage on it, you might want to get some title or property search protection or have someone keep an eye on your house because there might be a real estate sign that goes up on your home if you're not down there for a month or two at a time. And next thing you know, it's sold right out from underneath you. How can that happen? Well, there's diabolical ways the FBI wants to warn you because you may wake up and you might say, I don't have a lien on my property, or I didn't take out a home equity loan on my property and someone else did under your name. They go in and basically rob your house from you. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. So that's a big warning this morning. We're making that news for you right here on the Pulse of an H. Also in the 10 o'clock hour this morning, J-Dog talked about this yesterday, Mike Lynch. Mike Lynch, longtime WCVB sports anchor in Boston. He and Bob Lobel, of course, longtime sports anchors, well over at WBZ and Lynchy over at WCVB. Back when we called those station channels like 4 and 5, they host Unanchored in sports. Unanchored Boston, or Unanchored is the name of their podcast. And Lynchy's going to join us. Great guy. He really opened the door for me years ago when I had the interest in the TV coming out of University of Vermont with no media background, and a lot of fun. So we'll hear from Mike on that. Some of the news talk happening this morning, as I said, I mentioned those special elections. We'll come back to that, and we'll keep you posted on all of the above. Special election results out of Florida. I don't know if that's an indicator. I don't know if Wisconsin is. I mean, again, it's Wisconsin. I don't mean to say this, but not really known as a conservative state, if you will. Florida, much more known, especially with Ron DeSantis and that, the last election he had there. But Florida, I don't know if you can look at one congressional race as a barometer, but that was Florida's 6th congressional district, if you remember Mike Waltz. The Republican candidate taking over in that election winning that for Republican winning the Florida 6th congressional seat after Mike Waltz gave up the seat to become President Donald Trump's national security advisor. And hopefully he won't have any more media members on secure phone calls when we're going after bad guys. But the Democrat there, um, this is interesting. What I look at in Florida is the Democrat had raised 10 times, had 10 times more money than the Republican candidate in that 6th congressional district, 10 times the amount um, more than State Senator Randy Fine, 10 times the amount in Florida, 10 times the cash, and the Republicans still won. But again, I don't know if you can look at one particular race, but we're going up to those midterms. And keep in mind, right here at home, please keep in mind, right here at home in New Hampshire, that U.S. Senate race coming up. And let me be crystal clear on this. There are already people running for that seat. What I mean by that is Chris Pappas, who was on my show a few, I guess, 2 Wednesdays ago, announcing his 10-county tour in New Hampshire as the first congressional district congressman. Chris Pappas, the Democrat, telling me when I asked him, he's seriously considering, he's already running. Let me be very clear. Chris Pappas is already running for the United States Senate. He's out there talking to people. He's planning. He's strategizing. Now, he hasn't formally and officially announced yet, but that could be any day. But that Senate race that Jeanne Shaheen is not running again, and she was on my show a week or two as well, reflecting on her lengthy career, including becoming the first woman to be governor of the state of New Hampshire, is going to be one of the biggest Senate races in the country. Uncontested, no incumbent factor. So one of the biggest U.S. Senate races in the country, wide open U.S. Senate race. And by the way, I said this the day this happened. This is going to be the biggest political race in New Hampshire's political history. Let me repeat. This U.S. Senate race, which is really starting now this spring, is going to be the biggest in terms of monies spent in and out of state, the biggest political race, not just Senate race, the biggest political race in New Hampshire's history, politically speaking. And whether or not Chris Sununu, not hearing a lot since he was on my show a week or so ago, saying the door's cracked open, he's looking at it after leaving the office of governor and supposedly entering the private sector. Sununu telling me and us on this show here, Good Morning New Hampshire, on the Pulse of an Age, that he could win the race if he jumps in. I haven't heard much that he is out there talking to anyone about this, so who knows on this? I think Scott Brown is very serious about this, but we'll see where it goes. And we'll keep an eye on it. But these special elections in Florida, Wisconsin, how can you read into them? They're sort of news stories for the day. But other than the probably the significance in Florida's 6th congressional district, it would have been absolutely disastrous had the Republican lost. Let me be very emphatic about that. The Supreme Court election in Wisconsin is an aberration under the category of who really cares. It's Wisconsin. I'm being totally candid. Who really cares? But if the Republicans have a razor thin majority in the House in Congress, so they needed to win that Republican seat. And yes, Florida is clearly more of a Republican state, but they needed that win for the majority, for the House majority, and that's why President Trump pulled back on the United Nations ambassadorship for Stefanik from New York to keep whatever extra votes they have. So we'll come back with Brad Card in Washington. Will give us a live update. And we'll tell you what our poll question on X is at the Pulse of an H right after this. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Back in a moment. Consumer confidence. Our poll question up on X shortly at the Pulse of an H is a consumer confidence question. Just curious, how do you feel about the economy and your own budget? Are you planning a spring vacation with the family away from home, not a staycation, like actually taking a spring vacation? Just curious if you are, and if you're confident to take a vacation and spend that money. We know how expensive it is now to hop on a plane and go somewhere, stay in a hotel, go out to dinner. Are you planning a vacation, yes or no, or are you holding back? Just yes or no. It's up on the Pulse of an H X poll on X. J Dog, results from yesterday saying no, 33. What? Oh, that he did not act alone. Okay. That's interesting. All right. These special elections in Florida, the one in Wisconsin. Florida is interesting because the Democrat outspent the Republican by a lot, but in the end, the Republican wins. Brad Card, one of our political analysts and all stars, joining us with some DC analysis. Brad, I guess the special election of Florida would have been a bigger story, obviously, if the Democrat won, but can we really read into these at all, or are they just kind of a news story for a day? Interesting. Brad Card, in our current edition this week up on Contact Politics, you were saying with our guest there that Republican members of Congress are talking to you about they're scratching their head. They don't really know any details on these reciprocal tariffs that the Trump administration is going to sort of lay out this week. And they want to know what that means for businesses in their district. So do we not many details known on these tariffs at this point, right? Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And Brad, I've said this in the beginning. I the only thing I wonder is the president is hell bent on these tariffs as a tool to really reshape the American economy, as he talked about. The only thing I don't know is how long it's going to take versus the short term pain. If it raises energy prices, for example, in New England with Irving Oil or Energy, a Canadian company, if it makes inflation worse, people's 401ks, that uncertainty thing, if that thing bounces up and down like a ping pong ball, like it has, it may be a good thing long term, but these tariffs, it takes a while for companies to move an operation here. It takes a while to start making components here. I don't care what the product, it doesn't turn on a dime. So I just worry about the timing of this, the short term pain versus the mid to long term gain. Yeah, right. Yep. What? I know. I know, and it can wind up in a vehicle sold in Manchester, New Hampshire, or the seacoast, but, it goes into a bunch of different countries. Hey, Brad, before we go, we don't hear much at all other than the national reports. What's the feeling in Washington with, RFK Jr. now at the helm of HHS, trying to get that's a big, big part of our economy, healthcare, talking about trimming the federal workforce, but what's the sense? Well, big pharma spends a lot of money on lobbying members of Congress. You know that big pharma, they don't like Kennedy, sort of a threat to the healthcare establishment. But what's the buzz in Washington? Are people rooting for him? Are they pessimistic? Are they skeptical? What's the feeling? Hmm. Right. Right. Well, and and it's kind of the change tone of the administration. All right, Brad, we'll catch you real soon. Real soon. Contact Politics, a new edition up. Put your helmet on wherever. Yep, however you get your podcast or the Pulse of an H podcast network. Thank you, Brad. When we come back, we're going to check in on your home, thinking smart, and being have a smart plan for your home. Bob Jackman, Laval, Minute the Building Supply. A little bit later on in this hour, we're going to get an update from the Manchester VA for veterans. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Want to kind of promote or mention top of the 10 o'clock hour. Really interesting interview. We got a press release, or I got an email yesterday from the FBI field office in Boston, really aiming at New Hampshire, Maine's New England folks who own maybe a vacation home. And there's this incredible scam that's happening that I want to make you aware of. And we have a field agent joining us live through the Boston field office in Boston. And it's basically, I don't want to get into it now. I want to wait till the interview, but it's a quit claim deed fraud. What that means is your title for your home when when you buy a new home, the deed, they always check the deed before you buy a new house or a condominium. They check the title, make sure it's clean. Well, property owners who have clean titles, second homeowners, like in North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and that's many of you, are getting shocked when they go to do something on their home or the title and they find out that there's been money borrowed against the home, or they no longer, worst case, they no longer own the home they thought they owned. I'm not kidding you. So you've heard of squatters? This is this is like in I can't believe I'm saying this, even worse. So all right, Bob Jackman, Lavelle and Middleton Building Supply, one of our great partners and sponsors out there. Speaking of homes, joining us on this Wednesday morning, and he's always up to fun stuff as we roll into spring. Good morning, Mr. Jackman. How are you? Yep. Yep. Up and down, up and down. Yeah, if you wanna succeed, be prepared. All right, well, take it away because we're gonna finally get into a pattern where hopefully we don't have to worry about icicles or ice, and we really get into some real spring weather, even if it's rainy. So take it away, Bob. Yeah, don't put that shovel away until, like, maybe June. No, I'm kidding. Yep, right. Yeah, Yeah, I mean, we always keep light bulbs around. We have different light bulbs. We also the other one are those double A, triple A batteries or the fire or, your smoke detector type batteries. Keep those extra too. Oh yeah, yeah. Yep, yep. How are your folks in your locations, LaValle, Middleton, how are they feeling? How are they hearing about roofs? People who had ice dams and ice buildup. Are you getting a lot of gutter type questions, window roof questions or not? Right. Yeah. Right. Another one, Bob, is before I let you go, is those outdoor backyard, smaller. Now they can be homes, sort of semi garage type structures or tool sheds or garden sheds. But you do a plethora of those, right? Yeah. All right. Well, I heard it does throughout the whole summer. Your neighbors told. No, I'm kidding. Bob Jackman, LaValle at the Building Supply. Be prepared to succeed. Also, follow up. Best way: pop into one of your locations, ask one of your associates or team members questions. Applaud your efforts for really pushing the trades. And any final thoughts or team member requests? Are you looking for people this spring to work part time, full time? Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. All right. Well, thank you, Bob. Be smart. Be prepared. Go get them. All right. Bob Jackman, Lavelle, Middleton Building Supply. You heard it here. You hear some things here a while ago, but if you go back in your memory, who said a number of weeks ago, before some people started keying Teslas, before some people started lighting Teslas on fire as a way to express their feelings towards Elon Musk. Who said when the haircutting of the federal government started, I wouldn't be surprised if Elon Musk at some point gets a little bit bored and wants to go back and build a better, bigger rocket. A better, bigger rocket. Yours truly. And already, word from Elon Musk that by the end of this next month of May, after cutting or trimming or identifying nearly $1 trillion in federal waste, or inefficiency or cuts. You might be moving on back to the private sector. I don't know if the king of Teslas will subside. Crazy, huh? Who would have thought? Anyway. All right. When we come back, we're going to update on the Manchester VA and veterans. Hey, Google. Hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an Age. Jack Heath, back in a moment. Coming up the Coming up top of the 10 o'clock this morning, if you own a second home, like a vacation home, and you don't use it full time, especially like in many states away, like Carolinas, Georgia, Florida, we have the FBI field office in Boston joining me talking about, you wouldn't believe what these scammers, thieves, high tech burglars, what they're doing now with your property titles and deeds. You're going to want to catch this interview coming up. But right now, we're going to switch gears. This is a very important subject, something we don't talk enough about, and that is women who are veterans. And the VA is has a pretty cool town hall coming up for women, women's veterans town hall, and it's coming up real fast. And we bring in the acting medical center director, Julie Bose, for talking about this. And Julie, this is a very important subject as we update our veterans healthcare in the market. And you have a great program manager with you. Well, I think it's awesome. Laura and Julie, you are finding, I think, if you look at more veterans coming into your system for care, more and more women who serve, correct? It's interesting. The I'm looking at the folks that still are not aware of a lot of the services you're doing, and imagine the challenge is still reaching them to join, to inquire, to come. And I imagine this town hall is a good example or a good opportunity, I would think, Laura, for women if they've served to come. But also, you have your new center facility opening at some point, right, Julie? I think it's awesome because it really is. It's time, it's not only necessary, but I think with the growing number of women who have and are currently who are still in the military, perhaps not even out yet, this is gonna be a great resource. So one more time, let's go back to the Veterans Town Hall, April 5th coming up. So let's go back to the who, what, when, where, and how people and why people should spread the word. And Laura, as the Women Veterans Program Manager, you must be really looking forward to the new center opening next year. Good stuff. All right. Well, thank you, Julie, and thank you, Laura. April 5th, Women's Veterans Town Hall. And I imagine there's the information right up on the website. And I'll let Laurie Flynn know on the public affairs side. I'll try and do a mention or two in the next day or two prior to this, so keep people aware of it. Thank you both very, very much. All right, thank you. All right, and a reminder, I guess that's a perfect segue. May 7th, we go 12 hours again. 12 hours, my 11th Make 12-hour count. Make 12 hours count for our veterans. 11th annual. I can't believe I'm saying that. I truly can't. 11th annual for Veterans Count, part of Easter Seals. It's a great program. And we're going to focus on a bunch of things that day. And big part of what I'm going to be talking about is we need to do a better job. We need to do a better job when it comes to mental health care for our veterans. Anxiety, stress, depression, suicide is too common, and the services, the programs are out there, and what Veterans Count does with their care coordinators is working. It's saving lives. We need to hammer this message, and we will. Got some great people helping us that day, including Dakota Smart from the Lakes region. He's a young musician, rising star in Nashville, in the Alton area, listens to my show, and young person. I love this. He wants to help and support his community and veterans, and he'll maybe come in and play a live song or two. And we're going to have great people helping us that day. May 7th, mark your calendars, my 11th annual Make 12 Hours Count for Veterans Count, part of Easter Seals. And I do scratch my head sometimes because I was on a little bit of a roll yesterday on this. Speaking of Elon Musk now, signs that his time as the Doge chief for President Trump are coming to probably fruition at the end of May. And I can't help to be that eighth or ninth grader in my classroom back in Swampscott, being told to stop being a commonsensical wise guy in the room by my teachers. I just can't help to shake my head and chuckle when all this is said and done. You look at the federal government, and instead of people applauding the pruning of the big fat tree, pruning of the bushes of the big fat tree of the federal government, instead of people saying this is so overdue and needed. In fact, we haven't done this since Bill Clinton, Democrat president, when he cut 377,000 federal jobs. Oh, but no, because it's Elon Musk and Donald Trump, it's not a good thing. Oh, my goodness. You can't cut back. You can't trim waste out of the federal government taxpayers. Oh, my goodness, it's Trump and Musk. You can't even. So I'm going to go out and key a Tesla. I'm so angry. Oh, I'm so angry. I'm going to go out and use a Molotov cocktail and damage a Tesla. It's just. And I'd said about a few weeks ago when everyone was kind of, losing their minds on some stuff. Not everyone, but a few people obviously make the biggest noise. I said, okay, just hold on before you get all worked up and get an arrest record for the next 10 years in your life for blowing up a Tesla for no reason. Just Musk is going to go back and get bored. He's an entrepreneur. He's a very smart entrepreneur. He's going to go back and want to build a bigger, better rocket. So just relax. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. They won't even look at the good that's done by cutting back. I still chuckle of the I don't know, chuckle's the only word. When this started and they were looking at beyond the USAID, the foreign aid group, and they're identifying gender identity classes in some third world country or in DEI courses for the workplace in Serbia. Yeah, I think we can cut some stuff here. I remember the one federal worker, she actually posted on social media, and I saw this like on an Instagram post. She worked for the federal court system. I do not know what state. And this is when they started the review of waste in the federal government. They said, okay, federal employees, it's been 3 years of like this remote work at home thing. You're gonna have to start coming back into the office. And she has a tizzy and she goes online and she said, how am I going to continue my work as an Amazon influencer if I have to go back in my federal job to the office and the courts? How am I going to do my job as a federal court employee if I have to go back to work? How am I going to continue my job as an Amazon influencer? Wah, wah, wah. Oh my goodness. Can't even look at the good that is done of cutting back the federal government. Talk about something that was overdue. Again, kudos to Bill Clinton. Last time it was really done. 377,000 federal jobs terminated, but I guess it was okay then. Hey, Google. Hey, Walks by the Pulse of an Age. Coming up, great 10 o'clock hour on Good Morning New Hampshire on the Pulse this morning. Jack, Heath, J-Dog. Mike Lynch, former longtime, that doesn't mean he's older, longtime sports anchor, WCVB, great person. We'll talk some Red Sox, what's going on with the Bruins, March Madness, you name it. Lynchy, unanchored Boston. He hosts the podcast with Bob LaBelle. Mike Lynch will be joining us in a little bit. And the FBI out of Boston joining us in a few moments. If you're a second homeowner, vacation home in the South, for example, you may want to know what the thieves are doing with your titles and your deeds. You might have your house sold right out from underneath you if you don't live in it full time. They're going to tell you how to avoid it. Great news from the FBI out of Boston coming up next on the Pulse of an 8.